Let's turn our attention to netball. Big week for netball with the ANZ Premiership final taking place this Sunday in Wellington between the defending champions, the Mystics, and probably the favourites, the Pulse, who were the leading team in the minor premiership this year, if that's what they call it in netball. And we'll talk to the coach of the Mystics team, the defending champions, in the next hour. But in the meantime, the big news in the netball world here this week is news of the departure of one of the country's leading netball coaches, Kiri Wills. She's been coach with the Northern Stars in the ANZ Premiership for the last couple of years, and she's had a long and very successful coaching record in New Zealand. But she is off to Brisbane to coach the Queensland Firebirds in the Australian Netball League, which is generally considered to be the world's leading club competition. So a new country, a new league, a new team, and a new competition which includes some radical scoring options, chief of which is the 2-point goal you can score in this particular competition. It doesn't apply in competitions in New Zealand or anywhere else in the world that I'm aware of, which is a bit of a pity. I've always argued that netball would be a better sport for spectators if, in fact, they could have a bit more variety to their scoring. But they've been loath to do this because they don't want to be seen to be aping what basketball has, which does have the variety with its scoring options. But anyway, this has been part of this league in Australia. So Kiri Wills, she's going to be taking up this job, I think, in a month or two's time. She joins us now from her new home for the next couple of years, Brisbane. Kiri, thank you very much and appreciate your time today. I've just pointed out the new challenges that you've got awaiting you in this position. There's a lot of new challenges there. I mean, I presume you're up for it, right?
Yeah, look, I'm really I'm up for the new challenge. I think I've been at the Stars now for 7 years, and I have been actively looking for a step change in my career, and this came up, and I thought, why not? I want to coach in, what is regarded the best domestic competition in the world. I want to be able to see how I can coach some of the best players in the world against some very, very classy opposition. And the new rules, the 2-point shot, I love that aspect of the game. I think it does open up new avenues for me as a coach. So this is about me being my best and moving forward in my own career while doing something new and exciting for me and my kids.
So what road do you take here in terms of your coaching style? I mean, you're coming from New Zealand where it's conceded that we have fundamentally a different style of netball from that played by Australian teams. So do you have to adapt to the Australian style of netball, or are you going to impose your coaching philosophies based on your years as a coach in New Zealand on this Queensland team?
I think we've got to be really careful about how that works. Their strength is their strength, and I want to work with that. So I feel like I know and understand the man-to-man style of defence. Whilst we don't play it as much in New Zealand, it is a fundamental basic of the game when you're growing up and you're learning, and they just take it to that next level from a performance point of view. But I do think that I can add some slight changes and nuances to the game that could give the Firebirds a bit of an edge. And I have seen some of the other teams employ box-style defence and those sorts of things. So it's not as cut and dried as it traditionally used to be. I think that both New Zealand players probably need to do a bit more hard man on and work that skill set a little bit harder than they currently do. And over here, they are experimenting with that style. So I think it's a value add, really. And I'll be making sure that the players know and understand I'm not here to change them. I'm here to work with their strengths and make us a better team.
I wonder if there were a few eyebrows raised in netball circles, say in Queensland, that for this their premier state side, they have gone outside of Australia and appointed a New Zealand coach who hasn't coached in Australia before, as opposed to just appointing a top coach in Australia.
I guess there's probably a bit of speculation and chat. I try not to read too much into what the keyboard warriors have to say, but I can understand fans and people in Australia wondering about that. They're very parochial here. They're loyal. They're hardcore. So I totally respect that. But I believe I did a very good job in my interview process. I am a very experienced head coach. I've head coached now for a decade and a bit at performance level. So I know what I'm doing, and I think I just want to reassure them that I am a capable set of hands, and I am here to provide some stability. I think that's what they're craving here, and that's what I'm going to do.
Are you apprehensive at all about the challenge?
I think any coaching role, where it's a volatile profession, but we know that when we take it up, and I think every year I am apprehensive about my teams doing well, whether it's the Stars or the Firebirds or anyone else. The easy path for a team that's not performing is to get rid of their coach. We've seen it time and time again across all codes everywhere in the world. So apprehension is always there, but I think that's what makes you good at your job. You know you have to do a good job, otherwise you will lose it. So I've always thought that, and so it doesn't really change here. I do think this is a massive step up. The crowds, the setup is absolutely amazing. I've had a tour yesterday, and it's basically ANZ on steroids. It's they've got a Champions Lounge, the whole venue. They've got their own gym. They've got so many things that make it a very hard system to beat. I can see why they are very good at what they do.
It's for someone like me, it's remarkable when I see the transformation at the grassroots level, I suppose, of Australian netball. I can remember years ago when I used to travel to Australia to commentate Silver Ferns Test matches there. New Zealand was way ahead of Australian netball in terms of its media profile, its television coverage. The professionalism in the game in New Zealand was ahead of Australia. But that's all changed now. I'm just reading recently your experience, which you've just repeated again now, about this amazing support system you've got there. What's changed and what's brought this change in professionalism about an Australian netball?
Look, I think we did have an amazing competition in the National Bank Cup back in the day when you were commentating and I was playing, Brendan.
Yeah.
And I think Australia looked at that and they wanted to do something similar. So then we combined and became the ANZ Championship, and then they've taken it another level with the open import system. And it's really investment from Netball Australia, their state governments. They all back and get stuck into this. I think media profile over here is always difficult. It's a very competitive market. You're up against some massive codes and codes that in New Zealand we don't pay attention to. So my kids are swimmers, and over here just the support of the swimming team over in Australia is huge. So I don't think it's that the Australian players themselves or the system of playing and competition wasn't there. I think it's just their market share has been more difficult to tackle, and now they're making some inroads on that, which is really good progress for them.
Yes.
Well, I should say us now.
Yes, also I think a lot of television executives in Australia have been dragged into the 21st century. I can remember years ago going there that the idea of putting women's sport in prime time on television was just out of the question. You know, if sport was going live on television, it had to be football or soccer or AFL or something, and the women's sport could go somewhere else on the ABC on a Sunday morning or somewhere. So, and I was always sort of kind of disappointed at this really sort of kind of dyed-in-the-wool, male attitude that prevailed amongst television executives and producers there. I'm presuming that's changed as well by the look of it and by the sound of it.